I think what it often is us making the differentiation between simple and easy. I used to be an elementary school teacher, so I try to frame these things as simply as possible. That doesn't make it easy.
Right.
If you say you want to lose weight, it's simple. Consume less calories than you burn.
Yeah, you want to do a push-up, it's that. But
it's simple. It's not easy. And that's everything. So it's even when we have these conversations. And the thing too is, especially when it comes to our resilience, it's not supposed to be easy. There's no value in it becoming easy. And again, we live in an Uber Eats culture. We live in a culture where everything is becoming more and more convenient and not recognizing how much that is hurting our resilience. Because when hard times find us, which they do, which everybody had to experience, even with the pandemic, some people were more prepared than others in different capacities because for some people, that was the first time their resilience was tested. That was the first time, people losing their shit over not being able to get a haircut. Like it was the first time they were inconvenienced.
Yeah. Like you said, what you said, the worst thing that ever happened to you is the worst thing that ever happened to you.
Yeah.
And so in those moments, that's the worst thing that's ever happened.
And that's whatever, versus had they voluntarily put themselves in certain situations and be more difficult. And I'm not trying to minimize, the challenges of the pandemic for different people for different reasons, but you start to realize that. And I think, even for me, realizing, having the day job as a teacher versus leaving that and becoming a full-time artist and entrepreneur, it's leaving the comforts of the zoo for the jungle. In the comforts of the zoo, when you're in the zoo, you feel like you're trapped, but then you also forget that you're safe. And the food comes, somebody brings you your food. And those cages keep you in, but it keeps everybody else out. And then one day you're in the jungle and now you're free, but you're also, you are, you're prey. Yeah. And you got to find your food and you got to figure it all out. But you do that long enough, you build a resilience. And I think, that's how I kind of feel with me in my journey. It was like I at some point I was thrown to the wolves and it sucked. And it took a long time to adjust, adapt, and evolve, but once I did, I built a new level of resiliency. That doesn't mean hard days aren't, I'm hoping my best days are ahead of me. I'm hoping my worst days are ahead of me, because that's the experience of this, temporary thing we have called life. And you're going to learn from the bad days. I don't learn too much from the good days. And I think for me, it's really important that we kind of look at it from that perspective, because so often we view suffering, unpleasantness, discomfort, unfamiliar. We view these as the enemy for some reason. And it's like, listen, every single human being on earth is spending most of their energy just trying to be okay. Because we are, we are consuming, life is being consumed by the world around us, by the thoughts we have and by the emotions we have. And none of these can be completely trusted, but all of these things are impacting us all the time. And the most work we can do is realize that we are separate from all three of these things. We are the observer of these things. We are observing something that happened, and our world is way bigger than we can consume. Our brains are definitely ignoring machines. You ignore certain smells, sounds. Your brain is trained to ignore things that are in place, to focus on things that are out of place for survival.
Negative.
That are negative, yeah. But then also that means everything in your life could be going well, and you're hyper-focused on the one thing that's not, because that goes back to what our brains have been designed for. We can't trust everything we think, because half our thoughts in our head are from other people that they've been slowly planted in there, and then we can't definitely trust everything we feel, because very often the things that we feel are impacted by so many other factors, and I've been really trying to pay attention to that lately, in terms of like, I'm having a bad day. Oh, somebody says something to me that's really bothering me, but I was like, oh, but also, am I hungover? Am I hungry? What did I just go through social media for an hour and get triggered by seeing some things? Yeah. And really just trying to be aware of that. And our only salvation is going to be that awareness and watching ourselves go through these experiences. And, the time spent with Wim Hof and going in ice, you're literally volunteering to put yourself in ice water. And the feeling of being in ice water, the beauty of it is, A, it never gets easier, ever. And B, it's going to make you feel like you're going to die. Like you feel like, I am going to die. And if you don't do anything and you just stay in there, by whatever miracle, it gets easier, right? You're not supposed to spend more than 2 minutes in there, so just do it for 2 minutes. But then once you know you're not going to die and you keep going in there, the feelings are still there. Now the question is, how quickly can you change that reaction to a intentional response? So, when I first went there, I'm there with a bunch of alpha dudes, and we're trying to go for I stayed in for 13 minutes.
Damn, that's long.
It's long, and also I could feel there's the mind over matter pain, but then there's also pain in my toes that feel like, oh, my toes are gonna fall off. I really should get out.
Yeah, the extremities take it the worst, right?
Yeah, and it's as I said, like this isn't some sort of voodoo. Like this is, you can survive a couple of minutes. You don't want to be in for too long. And then, speaking with medical professionals that work with Wim, because Wim himself, he's a nut. He just wants you in the water. Then he's like, now let's jump into the sauna. But he has an entire academy of medical professionals. And they're like, listen, idiots, don't go in for more than 2 minutes. The goal here isn't how long you can stay in. The goal is how quickly you can come to peace in there. And you do that through your breath. Because one of the biggest challenges we have in life is that we breathe too shallow. So going in the ice, everyone does that. You're taking a cold shower. Instantly, you're breathing deeper. Your body already knows what to do. And that's what Wim kept saying to us. We kept asking him questions like, what if my fingers fall off? What if I get hypothermia? He's like, your body will know what to do. And he's right. We breathe deeper. But now if I go in knowing to breathe deep, the first thing I do is I go in and I take super deep breaths. So I got myself to probably maybe 45 seconds. So the first 45 seconds, my mind's like, get out, get out. You put too much ice in, this is too much. And then within 45 seconds, like, oh, we can do this. And then the next minute and 15 seconds is just, I'm good. I'm good. I can pay attention to different parts. I can squeeze my elbows into my ribs and feel a little bit warmer. I can close my hands. I can squeeze my thighs. I know what's happening. And then when you get out, that's a whole other journey of how quickly you can bring yourself back, because your internals are still warm. Your externals are really cold. They're about to mix. And when the second they mix, your body's going to shake uncontrollably. So it's like, how quickly can you get yourself back to a regulated state? And that comes from doing push-ups, doing squats, doing different things, finding the biggest muscles in your body and activating them. So it's really about that awareness. So it's the same thing where it's like, there's nothing wrong with us for having emotional reactions. How quickly can we turn that into an intentional response? Someone cuts you off in traffic and you lose your shit. How quickly can you, is that gonna haunt your week, your day, your hour, your minute? How quickly can you bring that back to an intentional response? And that is just, as I said, intentional breathing, being aware, observing yourself, not owning the stuff that's happening. Instead of saying, I am sad, say, I am experiencing sadness. I think I'm a failure. I'm currently having the thought that I'm a failure. Separating yourself from that makes a massive difference. How we speak to ourselves makes a massive difference. And this is why I'm talking about love, because this is your relationship with yourself. This is what you realize when you're in a relationship with somebody else. You have a kid, you have to be mindful of how you speak to them. Same thing. And you're willing to do that work because you love them. The love isn't what makes you work with them. The love is what makes you do the effort and do the work to make that relationship harmonious.
Love is the fuel, huh?
Love is the fuel, not the glue. Yeah. And it's the same thing with yourself. So it's like, how do I, and we're in situations, you're self-employed, I'm self-employed. We have the best boss and the worst boss we could ever have. We have the best employee and the worst employee we could ever have, and we'll say shit to ourselves that we would never say to anybody else that works for us. We would say shit to, we allow shit from ourselves that we would never allow anyone else to say to us. And nothing comes from that. That's the thing. At the end of the day, being like, you idiot, you're supposed to get X, Y, Z done today and you didn't. The question is, what good comes from that? Does that make you work more efficiently?
Those words you're saying.
Yeah. It doesn't even lead to anything. Versus being like, hey man, okay, we were supposed to do this today. We didn't do it. Got caught playing PlayStation, got caught doing some other stuff, whatever. All right, we got to make up for this. Let's figure something out. Let's come up with a better game plan. All right, tomorrow we're going to get X, Y, Z done before we even look at our phone. Let's honor this commitment. Let's do this. And now we're saying it from a place of love, the same way because we're speaking to our inner child. Our inner child has the steering wheel. The adult version of us is just in the passenger seat. You can't scream and yell at them. They're just going to freak out and we're going to go back into our autopilot. We have to speak with love. And then, the more we do that, the more we'll build our self-respect. And the more self-respect we build, the less self-esteem we chase on the outside. Because that self-esteem and chasing that outside validation is where all the trouble's at.
Yeah, there was so much gold in there. Oh, I don't even know what I mean, I almost want to just like hit stop, like I said this multiple times to deserve the mic drop right there. But I think it all ties together. And like you said, going through trauma and grief, where you said be easy on yourself and have those conversations yourself. There's a book called I think it was Untethered. They kind of had a similar.
The Untethered Soul?
Yeah, Untethered Soul, that's what it is. Yeah, and it kind of had a similar analogy, whereas like if your thoughts and your internal conversation was a roommate, you'd think you'd send this guy to this insane asylum. And I think that's a really good perspective of looking at it and realize how you do talk to yourself and kind of, like I said, be easy on yourself.
Yeah.
And in regards to the ice bath that you're doing, that put me through an entire process of what going through shitty situations or grief or whatever journey you're going through. I feel like it was the exact same process. You go through it, like we've already said, and you allow yourself to feel it, but also you start kind of closing the deviation between your reaction and your response. And I think that's a sign of healing. When you do start, instead of feeling shitty for 2 weeks, all of a sudden I feel shitty for 1 week, or like you said, 45 seconds, that gets smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
That is such a beautiful lesson on how we got to handle our shit when we're going through it. And like you said, everything's transitory. And
and that's how he discovered it.
Through
his wife committed suicide.
Oh, no shit.
His wife committed suicide, leaving him with 4 kids. And then, he goes, I was trying to make the pain go away. So then I saw ice water and I sat in it because I figured this would make the pain go away. And then that opened up a whole new journey and a door. And even most recently, he had he has a podcast with Frank Ocean, because Frank Ocean recently lost his brother in a car accident. And then they're discussing grief. And it's, this is all birthed out of grief.